Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another PlayStation 4 review, and today I am reviewing the new PlayStation 4 strategy game, science fiction strategy game, Age of Wonders Planetfall. Now I'm quite a big fan of strategy games, XCOM 2, Stellaris, all that kind of stuff. They can be incredibly rewarding, highly addictive and a lot of fun to play, and quite relaxing too, and a lot in comparison to a lot of the quick fix games out there, the Call of Duties and all that kind of stuff. It's not my bag, them sort of games. These sort of games are my sort of bag. And Age of Wonders Planetfall has a sci-fi approach to this game, and essentially you've got a few different ways you can play this game. You've got the standard campaign version of this game, where if you go in as the campaign, you have the option. You have three options at the start of the campaign. You can be three of the different factions, and the others unlock as you progress through the campaign. So it can be quite a lengthy process just to get through the campaigns alone. Now in this game there are a number of factions that you can choose, and all of them are pretty cool and wide and varied, and here are just some of the examples. You've got the Assembly, which are like cyborgs, a bit like the Borg from Star Trek. You've got the Vanguard, which is the human ones. You've got the Syndicate, who are essentially traders. You've got the Amazon, who are kind of bioengineers. You've got the Kirko, which are like as an alien species. And you've got the Devar, that are like miners, they're like short, small, a bit like dwarves, the kind of kind of characters you see in RPGs, things like that. So there's all these factions that are vying for control of these planets, and the idea is you land on this planet and you try and colonize it, take over either peacefully where you can, or aggressively if you choose to do so. And by that what I mean is you can choose to be quite political and try and negotiate and get on with the other factions, negotiate peace treaties, all that kind of stuff, and try and spread your forces throughout this planet as peacefully as you can. Or you can go in all guns blazing and try and take out everybody, declare war on whoever you want, whenever you want, and see how long you last. Now that's kind of the beauty of this game. It gives you a lot of different options to play it, and both are just as rewarding and depending on your play style. Throughout the game you've got to research new materials, new weapons, new equipment, and periodically you are given the option to research new technologies, and it gives you an indication of how many turns it's going to take to research that. So you're constantly researching so that you can upgrade your facilities to make your faction more stronger as each turn goes on, and that's the idea. As I've said, it's quite a political aspect of this game. You will have many a conversation with the other factions. You can compliment them, you can negotiate with them, you can ask for certain things, but you've got to offer certain compromises as well. And it's quite a fun aspect of the game, I have to say. Now, in regards to negatives for this game, when you're actually playing the game, the combat is obviously a big part of a game like this, and the combat is, for those of you who played XCOM or games very similar, the combat is going to feel very, very comfortable very, very quickly. You've got your turn-based combats. Your units take turns moving around the playing field and taking out the enemies using their wide variety of abilities and weapons. You've got usual overwatchers and your laser guns, a whole array of weapons that you can use against your enemies, and the combat is very fun and very rewarding. However, there's kind of it doesn't give you an awful lot of incentive to play the combat sometimes, because it can take up a big chunk of your time doing some of these combat missions. And when you're about to go into combat, you get like a warning screen, and it tells you the power of your army and the power of the enemy's army. Now if your army is at something like 900 for example, and the enemy is at like 330, it's an easy battle, and you can choose whether you want to go into that battle and do it manually or auto battle by clicking square on the PlayStation controller. And 9 times out of 10, if your forces are stronger than the enemy's, you're going to win, and going to win fairly easily. So it doesn't give you an awful lot of incentive to go into the battles unless you're wanting to try out your new units that you've developed, which you've combined into the armies, or new weapons, or you could have upgraded your commander, which you can do. You can upgrade them pretty extensively and level them up and try out new weapons and mods. So that's the only real incentive to go into the battles. If you want to play this more strategically and avoid the battles, you can avoid 80%, 85% of the battles if you choose to. Now that could be seen as a positive or a negative depending on your playing style, I would suggest. Now there's other ways to play this game. At the beginning you can choose scenarios. Now in these scenarios you get to choose the planet type, what kind of planet type you want to go into, how many players you want to play against, the threat level, the opponent level, the world size, the landmass type, and you get to choose which commander you want to use as well. So you can play the campaign, which is a lot of fun, but if you just want to go in and kind of create your own battle, create your own map, create your own game, you are able to do that as well. And there is also an online multiplayer mode. However, when I've tried to dabble into that, and I'll be honest, I'm not really an online player. I'm a single player fan, preferably for me, but I did try and do an online game, but I couldn't find one. I couldn't find any sessions, or many sessions certainly, so you may struggle with the online capacity of this game because it doesn't seem particularly well set up right now. And the customization options that you have for your commanders here is pretty extensive. Right at the beginning you can go into customize commander from the main menu, and all the commanders for all the factions, and there's a number of them for each faction, you can customize them any way you want. And it's pretty deep customization, on par with XCOM, and if you've played XCOM and you've done any customization things in that game, you'll know what I mean. And it's very similar customization options as you get in the XCOM games. So essentially what you get in here is a pretty in-depth, highly addictive sci-fi strategy game here, one that I have to say I am thoroughly enjoying. It does take a little bit of getting into. There is a decent tutorial at the start for any newcomers to this game or this type of strategy game. The tutorial is decent enough, but it's not needle to thread stuff in regards to telling you what to do and why you're doing it. It's one of those games that you have to play to understand as you go along. What happens if you research this? What happens if you add this to your colonies? You know, you've got to keep your colonists happy, so you've got to keep building things to keep them happy, but you've got to also keep your military forces up. So it's a kind of trial and error type of gameplay. The first scenario that I played in this game, not the scenario, sorry, when I first tried the campaign in this game, I failed miserably. I thought I was doing alright, and then one of my opponents in the game beat me to it. So I'm going to give this game a solid 8 out of 10. It's a strong strategy game. It's really well made. The graphics are what you would expect for a game like this, and it's highly addictive too. So if you're a fan of strategy games, I think this is definitely worth a buy. But it might be worth waiting for a sale, because at the minute it's full price. If you wait a couple of months you'll get 30% off this game. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you very much for watching.